you are.
Sing or play.
So, welcome everybody. I'm Andrew. I play Baroque harp. I'm a Baroque orchestra and especially Baroque opera director. I'm also a researcher, and this period, the very beginning of the 17th century in Italy, is something that I'm especially passionate about. So I'm very happy to be with you to look at Caccini in this project. What I'd like to do is we'll start off with some introductions, we'll do some playing. I'm going to introduce you to this book that we're studying, and it's going to be like all the sessions, a mixture of me talking and all of us making music. And I'll just say right from the beginning, I talk a lot. If I talk too fast for you, then make a gesture and I'll slow down. If you have a question, then ask it straight away. You don't have to keep your questions to the end. If you have a question, just ask. If it's a quick question, I'll answer. If it's a good question, maybe I'll leave it till later in the session. And if it's a fantastic question, then maybe we put some extra time for it in another session. But all questions are good, and so don't be shy about your question. If you're thinking of something that perhaps you didn't quite understand, or some question, or something that seems wrong or different, then you're probably not the only one. So do be brave and ask your questions.
Sorry, I have one practical question.
Yeah. Let me guess, 440.
Yes, and I thought maybe I should get my viola instead, because my viola is now 440 minutes.
That sounds like a great idea.
But it takes 20 minutes. Is it better I go to...
You choose. What I'm doing right in these first 20 minutes, I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. Then I'm going to introduce the book itself, and it will be a little time before we get to playing. And you will have the video. So I would say perhaps it's worth it.
Okay.
Go, run quick. And tell us your name, and we see that you have viola d'amore.
So my name is Talvi. I think most of people know, but
I'm glad to know you. Hello,
this is my beautiful instrument.
Right. And I guess you already have quite some experience with early music then, with this instrument.
Well, yes, I mostly played new music with that, but now I study early music.
Lovely, great. Then you run and welcome. So maybe could we just go round the circle, and could you just say what is your name, and if it's not obvious, say what you do, and welcome, come in. And if you could also say, are you new to early music? Have you got some experience, or have you got quite a lot of experience? Just give me a rough idea of where you're coming from. So, you're a harpsichord player.
My name is Svetlana. I'm just the first year of studying harpsichord, but I also can sing, but I don't have a lot of experience. I just have, how to say, learning, but not professional experience.
Okay,
of music.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. I'm very interested that you sing as well.
Sing, and she also plays a bit recorder.
Okay.
And what else? You play several instruments.
Yes, I have a Baroque guitar, and I play just the chords. And I have not harp, but it's a lyra.
Yeah.
It's a 6th century copia, so it's very easy to play.
Fantastic. Then a couple of reactions straight away. You might be interested during this project to try accompanying yourself while you sing, because that's what Caccini himself did, and that's a very interesting dynamic to do that. And the other thing is bring your guitar next time. Can it go to A440? Your guitar?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Bring your guitar at A440 next time. Fantastic. Hello.
Hello, so my name is Valeria. I'm so sorry, I don't speak English. I understand, yes I understand.
Okay, you're doing very well.
If you
Better
tell
than my
something,
Estonian.
it will be fun. So, I'm a singer now. but I don't have experience in Baroque music like singer. I have only like pianist, because I was pianist.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Hi, my name is
Hello.
Madeleine.
Nice to see you again.
I have about a year of experience on Baroque violin, and we have worked together before in Musiche, so it's exciting to be here again.
Good, welcome.
My name is Johanna Maria, and I am a mezzo singer, and I have sung Baroque arias, but not early, like very early music.
Yeah. Which Baroque arias have you sung? Tell me.
Like Händel, Topanote, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I also
Great.
sang some earlier stuff, like Buxtehude and
Oh, yeah,
and
Rosenmüller.
Purcell and Rosenmüller.
So a bit.
last
Okay.
year.
Okay. Oh, so you've done projects with him?
Yeah.
Great.
But not so much.
Okay. Okay. Great.
My name is Tatiana Gashinova. I'm a cellist. I play also normal violin, and my experience with Baroque violin started from February. And I hope it goes normally.
Very good. Okay.
I would like to play such interesting music.
Great.
I'm Reina, I'm double bass player, and altogether here in the Music Academy I played in 2 Baroque projects, and before that I suppose some 5 to 8 years ago I played also in 2 Baroque projects, but that's all.
Okay.
that
But you've done some. Good.
I have
Good,
done
great.
some,
Yeah. Super.
but not so early. Not so early, yeah, okay.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lily. I play the harpsichord. It's my 14th year playing the harpsichord. The organ I am very new to,
Okay.
about 5 minutes. And I don't really have any professional experience, so this is my first time in such a project. But yeah, I've studied a long time.
Okay. That's great.
And Nicholas?
Well, yes.
Yes,
I'm
welcome.
Nicholas Schröder. I'm from Germany, and I played the cello Baroque cello since 2019. Also took part in some competitions. We won the countryside at the first prize, I think, with some pieces. We were playing in an ensemble. Do you know Musiche? It's a competition.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Congratulations.
it was in a quartet. Yes, it was for Baroque violin, cembalo, harpsichord, sorry, and Baroque cello and a singer. So
Yeah.
it's a very nice arrangement, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, and since then I liked to play Baroque cello and study in this field.
Very good.
Yeah. And this year I think it's the first time ever that someone will study Baroque cello as a subject, as a bachelor. So yeah.
Good. Good.
That's cool.
That's really great. Where from in Germany?
Do you know Düsseldorf?
Where?
Düsseldorf.
Düsseldorf. Oh yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
like from this part.
Yeah. Yeah.
A bit more to the west, like over the Rhine.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah, listen.
This is my husband, and he played Baroque trumpet and cornetto, but not anymore.
Okay.
But he's interested in this
Used
project.
to play.
He used to play.
So we have a few more students from the academy. I've sent you the list of participants, and not everybody's able to be here today, and that's why we're videoing. And I'm going to video each class for anybody who's absent. Also, we're hoping that we may have 3 students visiting us from Kiev. And we have a singer, a countertenor, and another harpsichordist, and a cellist. The countertenor is male, the other 2 are female. And the reason I mention that is that, first of all, we're very grateful that the Academy has agreed they're going to accept these visitors. We have to get them here, and we have to find somewhere for them to stay. So if you or somebody you know can offer a place for them to stay, we've got 1 boy and 2 girls, then maybe contact IMBY or contact me. We're also trying through all the official channels and through whatever contacts we can find, but we're having to organise this quite late because the idea only came, I met this Ukrainian conductor during the summer, and we've started a partnership. He wants to really get early music going in Ukraine. It's quite a new thing there. So it's a new idea, and of course it's a very difficult situation for them. So we're having to work fast and a little bit improvised. We hope we can make something happen for these people. I think it will be fun for us, a nice thing to do for them. I think it could be like a life-changing experience for them. So let's hope that works out. And that's another reason that we're doing the video, because they'll be able to watch the video. So that's all the introductions. And before I introduce our project as such, I just want to think just for a moment about this whole thing that we do, we've been talking about it already, that we call early music. Now, we could have a whole semester of seminars on the question of what is early music. It's a big, big question. And we'll spend a little bit of time discussing that later in this course, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that right now. I want to get into the music itself. But there's many possible definitions of what early music is. Stuff from a long time ago, the stuff that people who call themselves early musicians do, the stuff that you hear at an early music festival. And these are already slightly different things. And they're all good definitions. There are definitions that were being used in the last century. We'll talk a bit about that later. For this course, and for now, we're calling it by the usual academic name, Historically Informed Performance, HIP. Historically Informed Performance. And what that means is that we get our information from historical sources. And this is a game changer. This changes everything. Because actually, the really important thing is not what I tell you. It's what's in the original source. And it's quite possible that I might make a mistake, or there might be something which I'm seeing slightly in the wrong way, but the source is still correct. And this is very important as a way to approach our studies, because when we realize it's all about the sources and understanding the sources, this takes away a lot of the arguments. Of course, there's many different opinions in early music, as there are in music and as there are in everything in life. But in historically informed performance, it's about what is in those historical sources. So if perhaps a few years from now you come across some new information and it changes something which we talked about here, then you're right. And we have moved on, and this is a good thing. And so when we're looking at our book, we've got access to this edition, which was a very important edition from the 1970s. It was the first complete edition of our Caccini book. Fantastic that it exists. Now, we're going to move on from this edition, and there are some criticisms to make. That doesn't make the edition bad. It means early music is continuing to advance. And it should advance in the future with you, the younger generation. And the way it should advance is you should get more knowledge and more skill, and you should actually improve on what we're doing now. So in that way, it's like a science as well as an art. Of course, there's the academic side of the study, and there's the information part of the study, which means it's not wrong to criticize or even to change what you have been taught before. This is progress. This is how we move forwards in the sciences. And so I say that especially so that if you think, if you see something differently, then you don't have to be diplomatically silent, but you can say, Andrew, I thought it should be like this. Now, maybe I can show you that actually Caccini really says it should be not like this, it should be like that. But maybe you've seen something important. And we can all see important things when we look closely at this original material. And I have to say, I'm so happy to be doing this course because I've been studying the original book again. I thought I knew it pretty well. I've studied it a lot. But I found new things, quite significant new things, just in the last couple of weeks of preparation, which I'll share them with you. So we've got this idea that it's about historical information, and that our understanding of that historical information improves as we go along, as we investigate. So there's always something new to learn, something new to discover, even in a book like Nuove, Musiche, which has been very much studied before. And one more thing about this idea of historically informed performance, early music. Sometimes we might think that there's kind of two basic approaches. There's like the modern, the mainstream way of doing things, and there's the early music way of doing things. That's not quite right, because early music is not one way of doing things. When we use this historical information, we learn that things were different at different times. So the 16th century way of doing things is not the same as the 17th century, and the 18th century is different again. So there isn't one early music way. And similarly, Italian music is different from French, and Spanish is different again. So there certainly is not one early music way of doing things. But this idea of modern mainstream versus early music, we also have to think a bit more carefully. There's the way we do things today in today's early music, and there's what they actually did in the past, and those are different. We make some deliberate choices, we make some mistakes, we make some choices that we don't even notice because we don't think about them. So what we do in today's early music is different from what they were actually doing back then. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons. And the way we study, we use the historical information so that we see the differences. And we can go, okay, this thing is different for a good reason, we'll carry on as we are, but we're aware of the difference. This other thing here, there is not a good reason, there are perhaps some bad reasons, but there's no good reason why we do this thing in the wrong way. We could make an effort and do better. We could really do something closer to what they were doing then. So sometimes people outside early music give the criticism that it's impossible to know everything and therefore it's not worth trying with early music. Well, it's true, it's impossible to know everything about how things were in the past, but we know a lot. We really know quite a lot. And if we keep studying and if we keep asking questions, we can learn more. So early music is not finished, it's always work in progress. And I would say that where we are right now, there's a lot that we do know about early music, but we don't bother to do. And so a big challenge to those of us working in early music, that's all of us here, a big challenge is not just to learn new things, but to do the things we already know. And perhaps each of us individually to be a little bit impatient, a little bit unsatisfied when there is something that we see is not true and we could put it right. So, welcome.
Sorry.
No, it's right, it's no problem, and we're videoing everything so you can catch up with the bits that you missed. Would you like to say?
spots for violins, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I'm not a violinist.
No, you're fine. Singers are also there. Whatever you are, you're welcome. Maybe you could say, tell us your name and what you do. And
my name is Janis. I am a singer. I study singing, oratorio, ensemble singing. And that's the right word for the sub-branch here in the master second.
Good.
Yeah.
Welcome. So you're a bass singer. And
yes.
How much early music have you done already? A little, a lot?
Last year we did.
Yeah, last year we did, like, I would say a medium amount.
Great, good.
No, not too much and not nothing.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Tell us who you are, Christina.
I'm a viola player and I'm studying Sibelius Academy, early music.
Okay, so you've had plenty of experience. Welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you.
That was a good run.
Yes, so I'm at Talvi. I'm a viola player, mostly play contemporary music, but I also play viola d'amore. And I've been studying here 1 year as a master degree for early music, and now I moved also to Sibelius Academy to Erasmus.
Very good. Great. Welcome, everybody. And by the way, I think those of you who have experience with new music, of course, that's the title of this book, New Music, and that experience will be useful. I'll talk about that more in another session. So, the book we're studying, Caccini, Le Nuove Musiche, 1601. Actually, they didn't get it published until 1602, but the date on the cover is 1601. The New Music. It's a very important book. We think of the whole Baroque period as starting in the year 1600. And in this year there were a number of really important publications in this year and soon afterwards. So we have the very, very first music drama of the Baroque period. I'm not calling it an oratorio or an opera because those things didn't exist yet, but this is Rappresentazione di Anima e di Corpo by Cavalieri in the year 1600. So it's your first Baroque opera or oratorio, whichever you want to call it. And it's also the first published work to use basso continuo notation, which becomes the defining element of Baroque music. We have the first surviving secular, so not religious, Baroque opera, which is the Eurydice, which was jointly composed by Peri and Caccini, and Caccini published his version and completed it with all his own music. Peri did the same and published his version, so we've got actually two versions set in the same text on the story of Eurydice. Then we've got this book of songs, nearly all of them solo songs, and we've also got in 1602 a book of religious pieces for solo singers, sometimes 2 or 3 solo singers, sometimes just one, with continuo accompaniments. So it's all happening around the year 1600, and this book is especially important. What the book contains is a number of different sections, and they're all really worth studying. We're going to study them all. So the first thing in the book, after the usual dedications to his noble patrons, the first thing is a section called To the Reader. Nowadays we would call it a preface. And he talks about the new style of singing. He talks about this new music, and he gives really detailed instructions of how to perform it. Really detailed. He gives little exercises for you to do. He shows when things are written one way, you should perform them another way. and he gives a couple of example pieces where he puts in all the details of the things that you should add as a performer to what is written by the composer. So there's a lot of explanation there. Then the next section of the book is a collection of madrigals, but madrigals for one singer and continua. So actual music, madrigals for one singer and continua. And the final section of the book is a collection of arias for one singer and continua. Can we just make sure that that's... I don't see my red light, so I want to check this is actually going. Is there a red light there? Yes, rec is good. Okay, there's no light on the front. Hello there. I'm glad you're still there. We can edit that out later. Okay. So the final section is arias, also for single voice and continuo. In the middle is a section from another big music drama, one that Caccini wrote. At the time, that drama, Il Rapimento di Cefalo, was a bigger production than this Eurydice opera that I talked about. History has looked at those differently, and history sees the Eurydice as the more important musical event. But at the time, Caccini's was a bigger production. It was also the final production of this. It was a dynastic wedding, so it was the final production of sort of a week or more of celebrations. And so he puts an excerpt from that production into this collection. So that's what we've got. We've got the introductory section which tells us how to do the music, and then we've got three kinds of music: the madrigals, the arias, and the excerpt from the opera. Actually, one of the arias, the last aria in the book, the bass aria, is also from the opera. It came originally at the beginning of the opera. So this book, it's setting up the solo singing style, it's setting up continuo playing, and it's setting up Baroque opera. So in many ways, it's setting the course for certainly the next few decades of the early 17th century in Italy. That's why it's so important. That's why I've called this project Beginning the Baroque, because in many ways that's what this book does. So that's enough talk for a little bit. Let's do some music and we'll come back to some more talking in a bit. So let's try this ensemble piece. So as you've heard me saying, almost everything in the book is solo song with continuo. So we're going to play some of those solo songs on instruments. This is the style that set up what later became the sonata style for violin, also for bass instruments. This is the very beginning of it, and the idea that instruments imitate voices, this is a really central idea. So this is a very good beginning of the Baroque, very clearly for solo singers, also for continuo players, but because instruments have the job of imitating singers, this is also a crucial source for instrumentalists. Like I say, nearly everything in the book is solo. There's really only this one fairly short piece for ensemble, but I wanted to have something that we could do all together, so we're going to look at that right now. So this is the piece called Ineffabili Ardore. You've got to find your music for that. And could we check again? Who's on soprano 1? And who's on soprano 2? Fantastic.
Evelyn is not here.
No, that's good. I know people are not here. That's okay, no problem. So, so that's 1, 2. That's perfect. I know what you're doing. You're on tenor 1. Yep. Okay. sorry about the unfriendly clef for you, but can you manage?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You're on alto. You're on alto. That's easy. Could you be on tenor 2?
Tenor 2. Okay, I'll try.
And now I have a question for you. Are you going to be able to join us in the concert, 25th of September?
We have to see my schedule because I've
just
sent the schedule, but it's kind of tricky because I can play on the concert, but I cannot be here.
At the rehearsal, the last rehearsal, she's
okay.
coming by plane.
I understand. I mean, it would be really nice if you could play and join us in this ensemble piece. And the reason I'm asking so early is because let's hope that you can. So let's put you on tenor 2. So can I promote you to the bass line?
Thank you.
And it is a promotion in the Baroque. The bass line is the king. Okay, you're on the bass line. No surprises there. Okay. We're counting in minims, in half notes, yeah? So let's just crash through, it'll probably be a big mess, and then we'll work on it. Could we have the first chord?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
So I think now first or second?
Second, please.
Second, yes.
Yeah. Okay, maybe we just quickly check the tuning, give them some A's and D's.
What is quarter, comma, tuning in meter?
Great question, I'll talk about it later. And the short answer is you have a tuning app in your telephone?
Yes, but I didn't find it.
Oh. Which app do you have?
App for which I paid actually, so it has many like that, Master 1 to 4 and everything.
It should have quarter, comma, meter. It might be called something else.
Aria.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have kitchen.
Tune. It's tunable. It's a pink logo.
Okay. Good. But now could you give some A's and D's so they can just tune them. Play. Yeah, exactly. Play notes. That's okay. All sound stops. And wait till they change note. And when they change note, that means they're ready. So their next note is D. And keep going. Keep lots of sound going. And now, when you just keep going, and then when you hear them start to change, the next note will be G. Keep playing, and the next one's C and E at the same time. On harpsichord, it's very important, just keep playing. They need to get the information from you, and if you stop, they don't have anything. So keep playing, and at least for about 5 minutes or so, just keep going. Let them decide when they're ready to move on. If we're in a hurry, then you move on to the next note and force them. But in general, it's polite to give them enough time to tune. Okay? So now you're in tune. And this now comes from the director's side of the world. I now pronounce you in tune. Do not tune anymore, okay? Because it's really annoying when you're trying to teach or have a rehearsal and people are tuning in the background. So if you want to be more in tune, come earlier. Okay, that's my little joke.
Can I ask, why do we play in 440?
Because the real pitch would probably be about 440 in Florence, or maybe even higher, but not lower for sure. And so 440 is a mix, it's probably about right. Maybe you could make an argument for it being higher, but it's not so convenient for people. We've discussed this, and the idea of going up to 460, which would not be wrong, but it's not very practical. So we decided that we would do 440. Yeah. And so the answer is, like always, historical information plus a bit of practical deciding. Yeah. And why quarter comma mean tone, I'll talk more about later about what it really is, but the reason is that's the way they tuned then, no exceptions. Okay, except the Baroque guitar. Okay, guitars can tune quarter comma mean tone, but they sometimes, because they could play in so many different keys, they would actually tune in equal temperament. And at the time, equal temperament was called the temperament of the guitar. Okay, but if you tweak your guitar into quarter comma mean tone, it will sound better, especially in this context. And especially, you probably won't be playing in horrible keys, we'll be playing in nice friendly keys. So I get your guitar into quarter comma mean tone, and we'll talk more about that later. Here we go, G minor chord with B flat at the top. 1, 2, 1, 2. Ineffabili Ardore. What's more, we're counting half notes, we're counting minims, okay? 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's do the words. Instrumentalists, don't switch off. Don't fall asleep right now. Okay? Many reasons. First of all, the words in this style are so important. We'll get more of that in a moment, but the words are really important. The words give you lots of information about how to play. And then, thirdly, all the fun stuff to talk about is in the words. And sometimes the music can be fairly simple, but the words are complex and interesting. So if you decide that you're not going to be interested in words, you really cut yourself off from 90% of the fun in early music. So get interested in words. There's lots there. Okay. Do we have any native? No, we don't have any native speakers of Italian here. Okay. And how is your Italian on a scale of 1 to 3? 1 is spaghetti, 2 is I had a holiday in Italy once and it was fun, and 3 is I'm pretty good. 1, 2, 3.
2.
2, okay. Everybody shout at once. How's your Italian? 1, 2, 3.
1.5.
Okay, that's good. Nobody said 0, so that was fantastic. Okay. First word. Ineffabili.
Ineffabili.
First lesson in Italian. Take your hands out of your pockets. Okay, there's an old joke that of the Italian guy who doesn't say anything because it's a cold winter day and he doesn't have any gloves. And he can't talk because he doesn't want to take his hand out of his pocket. So you need to take your hands out of your pockets. Use your hand. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
And use it on the accented syllable. The old word for that is the good syllable. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
Very good. Actually, for all of you from your native languages, you're probably used to the idea that when there's a double consonant, like this double F, F-fa, you actually make more of it. You could make a lot more of it. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
With your hands.
Ineffabile.
Very good. And so when there's a double consonant, you make the double, and if there's not, you don't make a double. I think for most of you that's fairly easy. For English speakers, it's hard to learn not to do wrong doubles. Okay. Vowel sounds. The E can be pretty bright. E, not just I, but E. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
And even the unaccented syllables, they have good vowels. Ineffabili, this bile, not bile, bile. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
If you get an Italian fashion magazine and look at the pictures of the girls wearing fashion, I mean, that's a terribly hard thing to do, none of us want to do that, but, joke. You'll notice that Italian women, when they smile, tend to smile sideways rather than down. Sometimes English people open their mouth downwards and they sound like this. But Italians open their mouth sideways and they sound like that. So when you open your mouth for Italian, open your mouth sideways. Try that now. Ineffabile. And that will brighten up the ah sound. It's not ah. It's not ah all the way, but it's a brighter ah. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
Very good. And the e can be two different things. At the beginning of the word, ine, it's open, e. At the end, bile, e, it's closed, e. Okay, it's not as much difference as in German, especially the way they speak in North Germany, but it's the difference of open and closed e is there. Ineffabile.
Ineffabile.
And what does that mean? It means you can't figure out what it means. That's, yeah, the word in English is ineffable, and it just means it's something so amazing I can't tell you what it means. This is what ineffabile means. It means amazing beyond meaning. You can't understand it. So you might say that God is ineffabile, amazing but you cannot understand. Ineffabile, last time. Hands.
Ineffabile.
Fantastic. When you make the accent, we're doing the double F, that's very good. F. But don't make the accent with the F. It's not F, it's F. The accent is on the ah, not on the F. See what I mean? Ineffabile. Try that. Ineffabile. Now that's really important for the way you play your instruments. You don't make an accent with the beginning of the bow stroke. You make it with the continuation. For singers, you don't make your accent with a consonant. You make it with the vowel. And even for us, I play the harp, and when you're playing harpsichord, it's a percussive thing, it's a plucked thing, but you're making articulations with the beginning of the note, but the sound and the emotional communication is on the vowel sound. It's on the sound you make. Okay, next word. Ardore. 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 I rolled a little bit too much on the R, it's just one. Ardore. Ardore. And this A at the end is the bright one. Ardore. Not ardore, but ardore. Ardore. A. Try and brighten the last one. That's good. Ardore, anybody know what it means? This is a good... Collect certain words that are really good words for Italian singers, and you instrumentalists are all now Italian singers for Baroque. Ardore is burning, and in the madrigals there's a lot of burning. It's usually the heart that is burning with desire. So ineffabile ardore. Burning which is so amazingly and wonderful that you can't even describe it. The two words together, ineffabile ardore.
Ineffabile ardore.
And with your hands, especially the instrumentalists. Ineffabile ardore. Very good. And the second phrase is the same again. Ineffabile ardore. Very good. Next phrase. I'll break it up into different words. The first word is che. If you know Fawlty Towers, anybody ever watched Fawlty Towers? Okay, English comedy program. And che just means what or that, and there's a character in Fawlty Towers who's always going, che? What? Che. So the first word is che. So just say che.
Che.
Okay. And the next word is agli. Agli. Go. Agli. To the. to the. And we join those together. Gagli. The K, the E vowel sound of the K is so short that you hardly hear it. Gagli. Gagli. Very good. Next word, alberghi. Alberghi. Anybody has been on holiday in Italy and knows what an albergo is?
Hotel.
Hotels.
Hotel. So this is plural. Hotels. Hotels. Hotels in this period also palaces and the place where somebody lives. It's literally a place where you live. Okay? So the agli alberghi. Agli alberghi. Gagli alberghi. Quite a lot of consonants. Gagli alberghi. Gagli alberghi. And there's only one word accent, it's on ber. Gagli alberghi. Hands. Gagli alberghi. Yeah. Use your hand generously and high up where you can all see it. Gagli alberghi. Even a little higher than your lap. Really right up here. Gagli alberghi. Good. Del ciel. Del ciel. Of heaven. So in the dwelling places of heaven, the places where people live in heaven. From the beginning as far as there. Ineffabili ardore. Ineffabili ardore. Gagli alberghi del cielo. And then the last bit. Richiama. 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 Be careful not to double the k. Not richiama, but richiama. Richiama. Calls back. Calls again. Richiama. Richiama. And what is being called back? Il core. Il core. And the A is this closed one. When it's at the end of the word, the A is always closed. Core. Il core. Il core. Anybody know what is the core?
Heart.
It's the heart. Great. Il core. So these wonderful hotels in heaven are calling your heart back. Okay, to join them again. Come and visit us again. The whole thing? Ineffabili ardore. Ineffabili ardore. Gagli alberghi del cielo. Richiama il core. So richiama il core. The accents are on chia and ko. Richiama il core. So this is a really fundamental thing you need to know. Word by word, you need to know where the accent is. Okay? Instrumentalists too, because this will tell you your phrasing. So you need to know where the accent is. How can you find out if you come across an Italian word you don't know? How can you find out where the accent is? Of course, I'll help you in training sessions, but by yourself, how can you find out?
The general rule that was that if it's a third syllable from the end, it's accented, I think, and it goes like closer.
There is some, yeah, that's sort of okay, but there are some exceptions to it.
Yeah.
There's an easier way. This is good, but there's a really easy way.
I just feel it.
Sorry?
Dissonance, I don't know.
Yeah, you could look at the music because Caccini knew, so Caccini probably gives you some clues, but there's an easy way.
Just Google it?
Google Translate.
Oh.
Write the word into Google Translate, select Italian, and then there's a little loudspeaker symbol. Press that and Google will pronounce it for you.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes Google makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, and some of these are old words, but usually in this style, the poets use quite simple words. Ineffabile is an exception. But usually it's easy words, but used to say beautiful poetry. So if you're not sure, try Google, and that's a first start. Of course, the proper answer is to say what you do is you go to an online Italian dictionary, which will mark for you where the accent is, but that will take longer, yeah? And I know how the word, you know, in the middle of a rehearsal and you're not quite sure, Google Translate, okay? It's probably going to give you the right answer. And then you check it later. Okay. So, this is one absolutely important thing, to know Where is the accented syllable? We call it in early music the good syllable in each word. Where is the good syllable? You need to know that. You need to know the single and double consonants. That's actually quite easy to read for yourself. And you need to know what it means. And not just generally. Actually, the general meaning is sometimes hard and not especially helpful. So what is this actually about? It's a whole load of people, and it's going to be dawn, okay? And they're looking up at heaven, and they're saying, okay, let's have the sun again, and it will be the new day, and it will be dawn. But that's not at all obvious so far. And that doesn't really matter. This overall meaning will come out eventually. But what you need is the meaning word by word, and you need to know which word has which bit of meaning. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question in English, and I'm going to ask you to give me the answer in Italian. Okay, here we go. What is the thing which is ineffable? What is ineffable here? What is the thing that is so wonderful that we can't describe it?
Ardore.
Ardore. Everybody together. Ardore. And that means burning. Okay? The thing that is burning, how is it? Is it ordinary? Is it red? Is it blue? How is it? It's ineffabile. It's indescribable. Amazing beyond words. Okay. Are the hotels in hell? Or where are the hotels? Ciel, in heaven. Very good. What are we calling back? What is being called back? Il core. Right, okay. What is in heaven? What is in heaven? Alberghi. Gli alberghi. The living places, the hotels, okay? What's happening to my heart? Who's doing what to my heart? What are they doing to my heart? Richiama. They're calling it back, okay? I'm going to do this game a lot, so get used to it, okay? It forces you to think between your own language, your own understanding, and then to say something in that language. Okay. So there was our text. Let's sing it again. Sing and play again. If you're a player, feel free to sing if you want to. Sing it and get used to the pronunciation, and then see how that influences what you do with your instrument. Another chord. 1, 2. All the basses, the second page. All the basses, the second page. That means continue 2. 1, 2. 1. 5, 4, 2, 1, 2. Re. Good. So it's not so long on that tied note. It's only 2 beats because we're counting half notes. Yeah. It wasn't just you. Yeah. Okay. Let's carry on and if you and do the last section. This is the section Quando il bell'anno. Quando il bell'anno. It's the same piece. If you've got the whole score, it's right at the very end. If you've just got the ensembles, then it's the next page. Same folder. It's the same document. Nope, it's the same document you were looking at before.
Do we need the pieces in between?
Not right now. Nope, back. It's It's the same document you were looking at just now.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
And go back. It's what I sent you on the first day.
Thursday?
I basically.
Yes, it was here. So.
Okay. We go.
Oh.
Now just go to the last page.
Oh, okay. So.
One page back. There we go.
Yes. So thank you very much.
Okay. Let's just try it. Singing the G minor chord. 1, 2. So back to the beginning of this section. Quand'il bell'anno. Quand'il bell'anno. Quando is when. The missing syllable is an O, but it goes so quickly you don't really hear it. Quando is when. Il bell'anno. The bello is beautiful, and anno is the year. So il bell'anno, the beautiful year. Okay? Quand'il bell'anno.
Quand'il bell'anno.
And with your hands. Quand'il bell'anno. You have to do two. Bell'anno. Bell'anno. Quand'il bell'anno. And you see how that makes it more expressive, more passionate when you put both accents in. So this is an important thing with these accents, these good syllables. You want to get all of them. You also don't want to put in any wrong ones. That's more of a problem when we come to sing. But as we're speaking, make sure you get them all. Quand'il bell'anno.
Quand'il bell'anno.
Very good. Double L, double N. Bell'anno. Okay. Primavera infiora.
Primavera infiora.
And the accent in primavera is on the ve. Primavera infiora.
Primavera infiora.
Very nice. Primavera. Anybody know?
Spring.
Spring. Hooray. And fiore are flowers. So infiora is to make flowery. So what it's saying is, when the spring makes the beautiful year flowery. So when spring comes with the flowers. But the words are, when the beautiful year, spring makes flowery. So the order of the words is quite different, quite unusual. You have to really think about this, because the poets and the musicians play with this idea. And you need to know which word you're singing. You need to know what the word means as you're singing it. This is a very important thing. So there are translations in this book, and you've got the link for that. But the translations can't be in the book. You could write the translations into your copy. That's often helpful, but it's not enough. The translation can't be in the book. It has to be in your head, especially singers, but actually for all of us. And singers, you'll notice in later sessions, it's super obvious when you sing a word and you don't know what it means. You sing it very beautifully, but you
but it's
don't.
morire.
But it could be anything, you know.
It's dying.
Right, for example, yeah. And I'm not just telling you, it's super obvious. In the training sessions, I will know. And so in the training sessions, I'm going to say, what does that word mean? And I'm going to pick the one word you didn't know. You knew nearly all of it, but you didn't know this word. And the reason I pick it is I could tell. You really can tell. So make sure you know what the words mean, word by word, and the translation, it's not enough to have it in your device, it has to be in here. Okay, what is primavera?
Spring.
Spring. And what was this infiora?
Flowers.
Flowers. Very nice. Okay, let's carry on. D'infiniti color. D'infiniti color. Make all those E's E-E-E, not infinity, but infiniti. Infiniti color.
Infiniti color.
And it's on color. Anybody guess what that means? Infinite colours, absolutely.
Of infinite colors?
Yes, actually, absolutely. Of infinite colours, yeah. Ride il terreno. Ride il terreno. Double R, terreno. Use your hands. Ride il terreno. Ride, anybody knows what does ride mean? It means laughs. And the spring in these madrigals, the spring often laughs, okay? Okay, ride. But here it's the terreno. What's that? Anybody?
Ground.
The ground. The earth. So there's so many flowers that the earth is laughing. Ride il terreno. Ride il terreno. Okay. So we've got infinite colours in the ground. Onde infinite. Oh, there's a lot here. Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno. Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno. So, onde is waves, okay? Waves. Infinite is infinite. So there are infinite waves in the ocean. L'ocean is the ocean. Seno is the chest, the breast. So in the breast of the sea, there's an infinite number of waves. So we have infinite colours and now infinite waves. Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno. Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno. Very good. We carry on. Here's a really important word. So Italian for Baroque musicians, this word is, get this one, ma. But, very important word, changes everything. Ma. Ma. So it's very nice to see you, ma. Oh, but, okay. Minor pain, and that's pene short. So this is pain, trouble. Minor, anybody? What is minor?
Minor.
Minor, what does that actually mean?
Less.
Small, less.
Less.
Less trouble. Minor pene. It's less trouble. Annumerarle, that's on rar, annumerarle, to number them, to count them, okay? It's less trouble to count them, fora, it would be. It would be less trouble to count them, okay? So there's an infinite number of colours in the spring, there's an infinite number of waves in the ocean, but it would be less trouble to count those than que d'amor, than of love. Amor, that's a really important Italian for Baroque word. Amor means love. Celebrar, on the last syllable, celebrar, to celebrate love's inclito onore, famous honour, the famous honour of love. So to count the colours of the flowers in the spring, or to count the waves in the ocean, that would be easier than to celebrate the amazing honour of love. That's what you're saying. Let's try it in Italian. Ma minor pena numerarle fora.
Ma minor pena numerarle fora.
And the next bit. Che d'amor celebrar l'inclito onore.
Che d'amor celebrar l'inclito onore.
L'inclito onore.
L'inclito onore.
Fantastic, the whole thing speaking. Quando il bell'anno primavera infiora. Let's go, actually, I'll go once and you read back. Quando il bell'anno primavera infiora.
Quando il bell'anno primavera infiora.
And again with your hands.
Quando il bell'anno primavera infiora.
Make sure you do primavera and not primavera. No, yeah, not the wrong one on pre. Primavera infiora.
Primavera infiora.
D'infiniti color.
D'infiniti color.
Ride il terreno.
Ride il terreno.
Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno.
Onde infinite all'ocean nel seno.
Ma.
Ma.
You can use your hand with that one. Ma.
Ma.
Minor pena numerarle fora.
Minor pena numerarle fora.
Che d'amor celebrar l'inclito onore.
Che d'amor celebrar l'inclito onore.
Ma.
Ma.
Minor pena numerarle fora.
Minor pena numerarle fora.
Get the numerarle, there's a little R there. Numerarle fora.
Numerarle fora.
Che d'amor celebrar.
Che d'amor celebrar.
L'inclito onore.
L'inclito onore.
Very good. Singing, playing. One, two. Super, good. Let's go back to our book. Was that a question?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
We have to revise all bowings according to
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
together. I mean,
No,
how will we do this?
because you're playing your part. This is polyphony. You are playing your part,
But in this
and
case-
she's playing another part, and she's playing another part, and he's playing another part. And it'd be kind of nice if the two of you talked to each other, but... and what decides is going to be the words, yeah? And so you're probably going to end up with more or less the same decisions. And there's going to be... I'm going to add something else to that later, okay? But for now, you figure out your bowings. This is not orchestra. There's no first violin who decides everything. This is consort. You play your part, he plays his part. And of course we discuss things together. And you play the same word. So a good question could be, you know, when we come to the word incliti, where am I, you know, are you trying to get a down bow on that first in? Because that would be good. But does it work with what comes before? Celebrar, no it doesn't, because you've just done a down bow. So plenty of things to discuss with your colleagues. But the main point I wanted to make, in this kind of music, it's personal responsibility and not a leader. And so we all have to think for ourselves and, of course, discuss the problems amongst each other, yeah. And I will, of course, talk more about bowing another time. But I want to talk a little bit more about what's in the book now, the details of what's in the book. So there's the different kinds of music, but I want to talk about what's in the preface. And I also want to slightly revise what I started with. So we started with, okay, the year 1600, we normally think of this as the beginning of the Baroque, and this book, Nuove, Musiche, 1601, 1602, was very, very important. Those things are true. But we shouldn't think that on January the 1st, 1600, everybody in Italy woke up and said, okay, now we're Baroque. We used to be Renaissance, that was yesterday, we had a good party, and now we're Baroque. First of all, those words, Renaissance and Baroque, are words that historians later applied to the period. They were just living. They did notice it was the year 1600, like people here noticed it was the year 2000. It was a significant year. And they were aware that there was a spirit of newness in the air. Something new was happening. These are new pieces. This is a new style. Continuo is new. But it's not all happening in one moment, of course. And it's not all so new. And so music historians now recognize that actually Caccini himself was not really one of the really advanced, new, modern guys of 1600. He was quite old-fashioned. And his book is telling you more about what was happening in the 10 years or so before, as well as giving you advice for how to do the music now. So his book is actually looking back on developments that had been happening for at least 10, 20, perhaps really as much as a half century before. So it's not, in that way, it's not so new. And Caccini in this book, he's really trying to tell you that he was the big hero. I did this, I invented that. My pupils were fantastic. My piece was performed and the Duke loved it. Well, that's true. But there were other singers. There were other composers. And Caccini was working very hard to publicize his own activities. So again, more recent scholarship sort of says, okay, Caccini was good, but he wasn't the only person. He's not the only name there. He was good and he was doing some new things, but he wasn't the most avant-garde of his time. So the other really big name singer at this time is Jacopo Peri. I already mentioned him. He composed what we now count as the first opera on a secular subject, Eurydice. Peri was much more experimental, much more avant-garde. He was really doing something quite new and challenging. Caccini, in some ways, was just sort of moving along and updating a bit from the older Renaissance styles. So that's the first sort of caution about reading this book. When you read this book, just read it a bit like Caccini is posting on Facebook. You know, when people post on Facebook about how they just did a concert and, you know, oh yeah, my colleagues were all amazing and the acoustic was superb and this was the most brilliant concert and here's a picture of all of us, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure you had a nice time, but we all know that those things on Facebook, you know, it's like they're always, we say in English, rose-tinted. They always show the best possible side. Caccini is showing himself definitely in the best possible way. So when we read this whole preface, that's one thing to be careful about. But he tells us some very important things. He's talking about how to do ornaments. he talks about how to do ornaments in two ways. He talks about which ornaments should we play in which places, but he tells us how to do them. He tells us how to practice, how to get the technique for these ornaments. This is really, really important. And he tells us, I already mentioned, when the music is written one way, you should perform it a little bit different. And he tells us what to change and how. And then he gives us a new style of ornamenting and says this is better than the old style. And in the whole book, probably the most important question he's trying to answer is how to be expressive in the music. And that's a really important question for any musician. It's an important question for early musicians today, for early musicians in general, but especially today. We're looking for how to be expressive, but within our discipline of historically informed performance. And the idea of being expressive is very important because this is how we contact the audience. Actually, in this period they don't talk so much about musicians expressing the music or expressing their feelings. They talk about the reaction that the audience have. They talk about changing the audience's emotions. This is actually the real thing. I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter what the musician is doing. What matters is what the audience receive. So you might think you were amazingly expressive, but if you left your audience cold, then it didn't do any good. So this is the real test. Can we affect the emotions of our audiences? And Caccini tells us how to do it. And he tells us how to do it in a way that's quite different from what was happening a few generations before. So this is the new thing about the Nuove Musiche. The pieces themselves, even the idea of solo song, is not so new. Continuo notation, okay, that's pretty new, but not totally new. And Caccini's style of writing, he's not like Gesualdo, he's not using wild chromaticism. So he's quite a sort of conservative, slightly old-fashioned composer, but what's new is what he's telling us as a performer. He's telling us how to be expressive, and better, I should say it better, how to affect the audience's emotions. And everything he's talking about is based on that. So it's different from what was happening in the Renaissance. This is a new way to be expressive. And it's certainly different from what we might nowadays call mainstream, but it's also, it's a bit different from what early music is doing at the moment. So it's a really important question, this idea of how to be expressive, and that's something we'll be studying a lot. So what I want to do now is to move on to give you some advice about how to study. I've sent quite a bit of music and how to study this music. First of all, just some organisational things. So make sure you've got an email I sent quite recently giving the pieces we're going to study on Saturday. Which pieces, which people, what we're studying on Saturday. You're not on my list yet, so get your email to me somehow, and then I'll send you all the stuff, okay? So make sure you know which pieces to study for Saturday. I will do those pieces on Saturday, so it's worth looking at them in advance. If you're a bass instrument, look at the accompaniment bass line for any of the pieces, but look at the solo bass line for the bass solo piece, okay? Make sure you know what we're studying on Saturday. Just to make sure there's no confusion, Saturday's session is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 till 5. Saturday is 2 to 5, Sunday the same. Saturday and Sunday, 2 to 5. make sure you have downloaded the words part of this book. Yeah, I sent you a link for that. Make sure you download it. The link expires today. I guess I'll have to put it up again, but it would be good if you could download it before the link expires. That will just save everybody some effort. So if you didn't already download it, do download it. It has the song translations, it has learned scholarly notes, and it has a translation of all the written part, all the explanation part that Caccini wrote. So it's very, very useful. It's not perfect. The scholarship in it is very good, but I have to say the Italian translations are not so good. They're kind of, it more or less means this. And that just isn't good enough. It's not enough for performing, and it's also not good enough for when we're trying to understand what Caccini says. Sometimes this writer really changes Caccini's meaning, and it's important that we really get right back to Caccini's own meaning. So we'll look at some of those passages in the sessions as we carry on. When you look at that preface, if you didn't already, you'll see as well as the writing, there's lots of music examples, and it's fun to try those, and we'll work through some of those in the sessions later. I just want to translate really carefully and give you one very, very important quote of Caccini's. So he's introducing himself and how he's been singing for a long time in this new style, and he invented everything. And he's saying that he's writing in a way that was described by Plato, ancient Greek philosopher. Now, he doesn't actually quote Plato completely correctly, this doesn't matter, but you probably know from your music history studies that this idea around the year 1600 that music is trying to rediscover the ancient Greek and ancient Roman music, and that's what led to this idea of what we now call Baroque opera, was the idea of making a stage show somehow in the style of the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans. And what they really admired about the ancient Greeks and Romans was they had read these descriptions that the Greek and Roman music was so emotional that people in the audience would be laughing and crying. They wanted to do that. That's what they were trying to do. So that's why he mentions Plato. And he misquotes Plato as saying that music is words and rhythm, with sound last of all, and not the other way around. This is one of the bits that he mistranslates, but I will send you the original Italian, and actually it's very easy to translate the Italian. It's just that the idea was so shocking for Mr. H. Wiley Hitchcock that he just couldn't get that idea. So I'll just say it again. Music is text, speech, words, and rhythm, with sound last of all. And that's a shock for us. Here we are in a music academy, and we all get lessons where we learn to produce the sound of our voice. We learn sound production on our different instruments. And we might think that, you know, we're musicians, what we deal in is sound. But Caccini is saying, no, music is text and rhythm, with sound last of all, and not the other way around. What this means for us in our study is that we should study text and rhythm and find out what sounds come out as a result. So we're not starting from the idea of, okay, I know what Baroque music sounds like, so I will make this sound. We're starting with text and rhythm, and we're going to see what sound comes out as a result. So, this is also how we study. We study the piece by looking at the text, and that's what we just did with those ensemble pieces. We look at the text, and we look at the rhythm. Now, there's a lot of elements to looking at the rhythm. but I'm just going to give the first one. So the first one is that how they were doing rhythm around the year 1600. A bit different from how we do rhythm today. They counted a very steady count. They counted a very steady count, and for Caccini and for most of this type of music, it's on the half notes. So they're counting the half notes, and they're counting them steadily, and they make that count physical with their hand, and they just go down, up, down, up. If you've ever been to a Korean restaurant, there's the cat, yeah, in the doorway of the Korean restaurant, then just think of that, just going all the time, down, up. So can we just practice that? Okay, down, up. Notice that the palm is outwards, it's this way, yeah? Down, it's not sideways, it's not a box, it's just down, up, down, up, down, up. Who has previously done this exactly this way, down, up, with their hands pointing out like this? One. No? Is that your guess? Yeah. We did. One. Okay. So, this was the way they learnt rhythm from their very first studies as a child onwards. This was the way they learnt a new piece. This was the way they directed music. Now, there were not conductors for big ensembles. Opera was never conducted. But they did beat time in all things in solo songs. So we've got pictures of a woman singing with a lute player. So there's just the two of them, and she is beating time. She's not conducting him, but she is just making the rhythm, because they always did it. They did it from childhood on. They did it to learn a new piece, and they did it in performance. They just always did this thing. And nearly all of you just did it for the first time. So this is a big part of historical experience of early music that we don't yet have. And we all need, I do this a lot, but nevertheless I need to do it more. I didn't start doing it exactly this way when I was 5 years old, and I'm trying to catch up. So we need to do this a lot so that the physicality of it becomes very, very familiar. So just be warned, I'm going to be asking you to do this a lot, and when you're working by yourself, do this. Yeah? If you're playing at the same time, you can tap your foot. Down, up, down, up. And it's a slow beat. It's around 1 beat per second. 1, 2, down, up. Actually, in some of the songs it needs to be even slower, because the songs have very, very short notes. So it could be even slower beat, down, up, on the half notes. That's the beginning and the most important thing of rhythm, and we're going to do a lot of work to get used to that. So we study the words, and we study the rhythms with this down, up. And this beat, it's called Tactus, it's totally reliable. So it's nothing like a modern conductor. Okay? It's totally reliable. It's absolutely equal and solid and firm and stable. By the way, I'm quoting the writer Zacconi in 1596. Equal, solid, stable, firm, without any change whatsoever. Absolutely no change. And another nice thing he says about it, it's fearless. It's not scared. Tactus is not scared. Now, in the real world, we all know how it is. Sometimes we get scared in performance. We get scared in ensemble. It's like, well, I know we should come in here, but is she coming in? I don't think she is. I'm scared. I'm not coming in. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all been there. And we've all had the situation of being nervous in a concert. But Tactus is fearless. So when we're doing this and we're all in tune with it together, then boom, there's the beat. We all know where it is, and we all can trust each other. There's going to be some development of that idea, but here's the very important starting point. It's stable, firm, equal, never changing and fearless. That's rather nice. Okay. So that's our tactus and our words. And that's the main thing to do with your preparation, is those two things. We'll come on to lots of detail as we work through the different pieces, but I'd just like to give you a couple of rules that will really help you get into the style quickly. So one rule is just the idea of good and bad. We've had good syllables and bad syllables. We've got good and bad notes. Just keep that idea in your head. I'm often going to say to you just good and bad, and that will remind you, oh yeah, we don't make every note the same. We have good and bad. And as a general rule, if this was good, the next one's bad. They sort of alternate. Not exactly, but they more or less alternate. Very convenient for the bow when they do alternate. It's not exactly, but more or less. So good and bad. This means we're into a completely different aesthetic. This is not the 19th century aesthetic of total legato, everything even, always the same sound, your very best sound on every note. Because we're not prioritizing sound, we're prioritizing words. And the words have got good and bad syllables. So if I just say a few words, but in the style of 19th century aesthetics, if I just say a few words where I'm trying to make my biggest, roundest sound on every syllable, it sounds very silly, but also you don't really listen to my words anymore. You're just hearing the sound I make, and it's a silly sound. I'm being silly. 19th century music is great, but it's doing something different. In this style, it's about words. And as soon as we speak, da, 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 there's good and there's bad. It's not all the same. There's always this variation of good and bad. So we've got to let go all the stuff that most of us had in our early training, me too, of making our best sound, playing always legato, everything should have the best, fattest, most perfect sound. Yes, on a good note, and no on a bad note. And not always the same sound, because what was the first word we worked on? Ineffabili. E-E-R-E-E. All those different vowel sounds. So we don't just want beautiful violin 5 times, we want E-E-R-E-E. All those slightly different sounds. And we want aha. How can you make that sound with a bow? Fabile. Maybe floating lightly before you get into the R sound. Fabile. So while the singers are working on their Italian accents and their Italian pronunciation, instrumentalists, you're trying to figure out how to go r and k and th and double and single consonants and good and bad syllables on your instruments. So that's why the language thing is so important. So, as Caccini said, text and rhythm, that's the way to prepare. Work on the text a lot, then sing it through, play it through, learn those notes, really check you've got the rhythm. If you're having difficulty with the rhythms, and there are some very hard rhythms here, okay? If you're having trouble, don't be ashamed to use a metronome, but just set it for the half note at something like 60 for an easy piece, 50, maybe even slower, 45 perhaps. Some of your pieces are very, very difficult. You might want a slow tempo for those. So, a regular beat. If you would like to be a bit more historical and a lot more aesthetic, then rather than using a metronome, get yourself just a piece of string with something on the end of it, you know, like a key, a bunch of keys or something. Yeah, just some kind of weight. The string needs to be 1 meter long, 1 meter long, that gives you 60, that gives you 1 second beat. You probably need it a bit longer for the slow pieces, so, you know, just to try it longer. Tie your piece of string and then just let it go backwards and forwards and sing and play with that. It's much nicer than the click, click, click. Gives you a visual signal. Also, you can use, you've probably got metronome apps on your devices. Use those on silent so that you just see the visuals. Yeah, but they also tend to be bumpy.
With the hand?
With the hand is the best. Yeah,
but
but
well, I guess.
Sorry?
Because you feel it as well, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is why in a jazz band the singers are doing this all the time. Yeah, they're not conducting, but this is how they feel it. This is how they get into that jazz rhythm. This is how you get into early music rhythm. Okay. So with your hand, but I warn you something with your hand, and also instrumentalists when you're using your foot. Make sure that your hand or your foot is the boss. There's a temptation to sing or play out of rhythm and then just tap when you get to the next note. That's not the thing. Concentrate on this beat and keep that steady. Easy to say, much harder to do, as we'll find out. We'll be doing that for ourselves and for each other. Yeah, one of the team games is just one person does the beat, the other person tries to do the music, and we notice, and then we swap round. Okay, you guys, try to figure out what harmonies you can for yourself. We'll talk about it later, but figure out some harmonies. They might all be perfect, they might all be wrong, it doesn't matter, but make your own attempt to find the harmonies as a starting point, and we'll go on from there. So that's how to study, and you know which pieces to study, and Saturday is 2 until 5. Let's look at the other piece now to finish off. So this other piece, which is today, which is Amarilli A10 Chi, that's me, in 4 parts. Amarilli in 4 parts.
I think I have the wrong score. I have the solo one.
This I sent on the very first message.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amarilli A10 Chi in 4 parts. Why are we doing this? This is partly for you, partly for the audience. Amarilli is Caccini's most famous piece, and we're going to do it in at least 2 versions. We know Amarilli as a solo piece, and so it's not a surprise for us that it's a solo piece, but it should be a surprise. Because this is the thing of the Nuove Musiche, is to make a madrigal, which is 1 singer and continuo, whereas in the Renaissance, madrigals are 4 singers or more singers. It's just, it's just polyphonic music. So as an exercise for myself, I made a little 4-part version based on Caccini's soprano line, bass line, and on his figures, and made just a little bit of polyphony, not too much. And this is typical of the kind of pieces they were singing at the end of the 16th century. So this version of Amarilli is kind of like, this is where Caccini's coming from. This is what there was before, and then the book we're studying moves on from there. So, and in the concert, I would like to start the concert with this piece, so that we say to the audience, here's the Renaissance music, and now this is what Caccini does with it. So let's just try. Yeah, we've got time. So let's just crash through once, and we no continuo. Okay, find a part to sing. Okay. No 16-foot. You can play if you want or sing. You choose. Same for all of you instrumentalists. You can play or sing as you like. Instruments are welcome, but not strictly necessary. But could you give us a G minor? Okay. We count on the half notes. Yeah. So it'll be half notes are 1, 2. Here we go. 1, 2. and stable and firm, that means right up to the end of the piece and through the last note and afterwards. This is part of the philosophy of the Renaissance and the Baroque periods. It's the idea of the music of the spheres. It's the idea that the way that the planets and the stars and the sun, the way they move up in the heavens, this creates kind of perfect music. We can't hear it, but there's a perfect heavenly music. And this heavenly perfection is, it's mirrored, it's reflected in the harmonious nature of the human being, your mind and body and spirit all working together. And it's imitated in the actual music that we make. So the music that we play and sing is connected to our health in the widest sense, not just physical health, but our mental and spiritual health, our well-being in general. And it's connected to this heavenly perfection. So when we start our Tactus and we start a piece, it's like we're plugging into heaven. It's like we just connect to the perfect Tactus that was already going, and we connect to it, and we sing and play with it, and when we finish, we disconnect, but it doesn't stop. We lose a bit of connection, but up there it's still going. So it's very beautiful symbolism, but it has a real practical meaning. The practical meaning is that if you mess up the rhythm, you could make yourself ill. If you mess up the rhythm, the heavens could fall down. Yeah? And
no pressure.
No pressure, exactly. We can also see it the other way round, that the rhythm that we use for music, we're getting the guidance from heaven, and in the end this rhythm is being created by divine love itself. So it's not a kind of, this is the rhythm, I'm the conductor, do it the way I say. It's nothing like that. It's we're together in this thing which keeps us well and keeps us healthy as individuals, as a group, and it connects us to, if you can see it religiously, it connects you to heaven. You can also just see it connects us to whatever the magical, ineffable, remember that word, ineffabile, the ineffable stuff of music. We all think music is somehow ineffable, yeah? We all think there's something amazing about music. We wouldn't be here giving all our time and effort and our lives to music if we didn't think that music was special beyond what we can just describe in ordinary words. And the specialness in music comes from this connection through physical, spiritual, mental, good health, well-being, and through this steady rhythm. This is the pulse of your heartbeat, and it's also the rhythm of heaven. It's a very beautiful philosophy, but it also really affects the way we make the music. Let's do the words. Amarilli, mia bella.
Amarilli, mia bella.
And with your hands. Amarilli, mia bella. So Amarilli is the girl's name, and it's the name of a shepherdess. You know, this thing of pastoral, so not actually somebody who's out in the fields looking after sheep, but this kind of idealized thing of beautiful men and women having love affairs in this beautiful countryside where everything is lovely. Amarilli, this is a shepherdess name, it's a pastoral name, so we've got to think of a beautiful girl in the countryside, but definitely not a farm worker. She's an aristocratic girl in the countryside. Amarilli, mia bella. And yes, go on, yes, please.
Amarilli, mia bella.
And how does she look like, this Amarilli? She's beautiful, she's bella, beautiful. Once more.
Amarilli, mia bella.
Don't you believe? Non credi? Non credi. It's a kind of negative question. What? You don't believe? Non credi. Very good. Oh. Oh. So what does oh mean?
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? What is this oh?
An expression word? Like
Yeah, yeah. Keep going. What is this oh?
Surprise.
Could be
I
surprise.
can't even tell with my words how
Okay.
like,
Yeah, it's kind of ineffable. I like that. We would say in English it's an exclamation. Oh! Yeah, that's what you're looking for, yeah. Oh! An exclamation. And it's really just an outburst of emotion. Oh! Which emotion? Because we can follow the word oh with oh good, or oh no, or oh shit. Could be anything after the word oh. So, which emotion is it? How do we know?
the next word.
The next words. Right. When we get these exclamations, and there are a lot of them, and we'll see why when we study Caccini some more, we have a lot of these exclamations in the poetry, in the songs of this period, and the emotion is from the next words. Oh, what? Here are the next words. Del mio cor.
Del mio cor.
Of my heart. Cor was heart. Dolce desio.
Dolce desio.
So you all know what the word dolce means because it's a music word. Sweet. It's also a menu word, yeah? Tiramisu and gelato. Yeah, when you go to the Italian restaurant, the last course is called dolce. So dolce, sweet. Desio is desire. Dolce desio. Go.
Dolce desio.
Very nice. Just to translate, so, non credi, don't you believe? Oh, del mio cor dolce desio. Oh, my heart's sweet desire. So this oh is about how his heart desires her, but sweetly. Okay? A lot of information. Let's just practice that oh. Just say oh. Oh. That's very good. More emotion. Oh. Very good. Now, and hands. Oh. It's very different. When you listen to the video, the version with your hand changed a lot of stuff. Okay. Now let's do oh, but thinking about your heart. Oh. Okay, that was different again. Very nice. Now think about dolce, sweet. Oh. And now think about desire. You want something or you want somebody. Oh. So this O can have a lot of different colours. And would you notice that the sound of the O depends on the emotion? So this is this thing we're doing with Caccini. It's text and rhythm produces the sound. So we haven't said, we'll do the O mezzo forte with little crescendo. We haven't said that. We've explored different words, and those words change the sound of this O. So this is how text plus rhythm produces the sound. Desser tu. Desser tu. Tu is you. Desser tu. Desser tu. L'amor mio. L'amor mio. L'amor. So amore, amor. L'amor mio. So don't you believe, oh my heart's sweet desire, this desse is to be. It's that you are. Desser tu, that you are. Tu is you. L'amor mio. Don't you believe that you are my love? Don't you believe it? Here's the answer. Credilo pur.
Credilo pur.
Pur just means just. Just believe it. Just believe it, honey. Just believe. Hallelujah. Credilo pur. Notice that this is one of those words, credilo, that has the accent a long way from the end. Credilo pur, with your hands.
Credilo pur.
Believe it. Go on. E and e. Se timor t'assale. Se timor t'assale. If fear attacks you, se timor t'assale.
Se timor t'assale.
Very good double L. Great. If you're scared, prendi questo mio strale.
Prendi questo mio strale.
Take this, my sword. Take my sword. Every poet had a sword with him. Actually, that's true. Yeah, at court, people wore their swords. So in the way that people nowadays, everybody at today's party had their mobile phone with them. And some people were even, you know, using it. Some people might have been saying, did you see, I got this really nice new mobile phone, it's very classy, it was, you know, it's got this nice decorative bit. And at court, in the 17th century, all the men would have their sword. And they would be talking about it. Yeah, I got this very nice sword last week, and yeah, I was at sword practice last week, and I found it rather, the bit where you're supposed to stab him in the eye, I found that difficult, but the rest of it went fine. So it was a fashion item, it was a conversation item, it was in real use, it was dangerous out there, the sword was for your protection. They really had swords, and by the way, the fashionable sword at this time was more than 1 meter long. Okay. Actually, I have one, and maybe I'll bring it to one of the sessions so you can see it. Certainly send you some pictures. But it's a very long sword. That was a great idea because if somebody attacked you, you could keep them at a good distance. So, absolutely. But it was about the same size as your cello, I think. Yeah. And sharper than a Baroque one. Okay, so he says to her, okay, don't you believe it? Take my sword, prendi questo mio strale. Go.
Prendi questo mio strale.
Aprimi il petto.
Aprimi il petto.
Open up my heart. Open my chest. Apri is open. Aprimi, open me. Aprimi il petto. Open my chest. Aprimi il petto. So take my sword. Open my chest. Yeah, prendi. Prendi questo mio strale. Aprimi il petto. E vedrai.
E vedrai.
And you will see scritto il core.
Scritto il core.
So core we know is heart. What is scritto?
Written.
Written. You will see written on my heart. Amarilli.
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 And again. Amarilli è il mio amore. Amarilli is my love. So it's like tattooing, except it's internal. And of course, when he changed his girlfriend, he's in serious trouble. It's like all the people who tattoo their girlfriends' names. You know, it's like, yeah, okay. You know this. And now these words repeat. Credilo pur.
Credilo pur.
Use your hands. E se timor t'assale.
E se timor t'assale.
Prendi questo mio strale.
Prendi questo mio strale.
Aprimi il petto.
Aprimi il petto.
E vedrai scritto il core.
E vedrai scritto il core.
Amarilli.
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 Amarilli è il mio amore.
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 Very good. Notice the way we said the last line. Amarilli è il mio amore. So?
Amarilli è il mio amore.
Good. Make the love last longer. Make the love last longer.
Amarilli è il mio amore.
Very good. That was really well spoken, and you didn't even think about how to do it. You just went amore. Notice that even when you make it really long, amore, the last syllable's still short, because that's how you speak in Italian. The last syllable is short. That means in this music, where the sound is made by the words and the rhythm, in this music the last note is short. Now it's written like a really long note, but you sing it short. Okay? And that's one of the rules. We'll be using this very, very often, but I just wanted to finish with this. This is my last note, and the last note, it's unaccented. It's an unaccented syllable. Unaccented and short. The last note is unaccented and short. And that's a really, really useful general rule that goes through a lot of Baroque music. And it's very different from what we tend to do. We tend to sit on the last note and hold it for a long time. Sometimes we'll even sort of turn the page and find out what's happening next while we're holding the last note. But no, in this style, the last note's unaccented and short, and that's going to change a lot of things. Good. Questions? Okay.
Still, tuning.
Tuning, yeah, I'll get to it next time. For now, use your app. And tune the open strings to the app, and then you'll need to experiment a bit and find where the stop is, because your open strings are a little bit different, and then the pitches are different. What you'll find is that not much difference on the always different fingers. I know. Yeah, we never have to play a fifth together, so you don't have to worry about that. But for example, when you on your D string, as you play D, E, that would be pretty normal for you. The F sharp, because the D is higher than you're used to, but the F sharp is going to be lower than you're used to. Lower. Tiny bit. Yeah, somewhere around there. You're going to have to get used to the sound and the place for your finger. That note. Exactly, play some scales. Okay, thank you everybody. See you next time. If you think of questions, do send me a message. See you on Saturday. Thank you.
So I have one question. If I'm only in the middle part, like the middle piece we are doing on Saturday,
I'm going to mix them all up.
Oh, okay. Then I'll come from the start.
I'm going to do little bits on pieces, and we'll have another room. And so I'll do a little bit on a piece, and then maybe send you off to practice by yourself, and then you come back, or you can stay and see. You can choose. But I'm not going to do the pieces so separately.
So we are going to have tunes on Saturday already, yeah?
Can we?
Okay. Yes, of course we can.
That would be very good.
I have to tune because I haven't tuned it yet.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah. Even the keyboard is not the most important thing, but just like some of the instruments or something. But it would
put it in the position.
If you can have one, it would be very useful.
Yes, that's okay.
Great. And I'll just turn off the recording.
Yeah.